Hey, cunts, don't forget to click the subscribe button. When I see Winston over here, because we have a new champion bulldog puppy named Winston, kind of looks like this Winston as well, but so whenever I see him, I think of the puppy, which I've been out, has been shown on social media. As late as 4 a.m, taking him out to potty train him. And if all 3 of our children would tell you, I didn't potty train anybody. And yet I'm out at 4 a.m. potty training, attempting to potty train a puppy bulldog. So whenever I see him, I'm thinking I got to look like this. If you guys are here, and all of you quarantined, and you've gone through all this, and the people on YouTube, haven't made that sacrifice. But if you put the same effort in getting here into QLA, everybody in this room would have already done deals. No exception. So why is that? Dan? Since I seem to have all the answers, why is that, Dan? Other than for 27 and a half years, it's been pretty much the same. Other than in the 90s and the early 2000s when we apparently had a different kind of man, testosterone levels, et cetera, which is all true. Some would tell the Dan Locks and the Bruce Whipples of this world would say, because we give you too much material and it's a crutch. Because the guys in the 90s and the early 2000s got fuck all. Nothing. And when Dan Locke, just a couple of years ago, and Bruce the Whipple a few years ago, came back to the seminar, they both said the same thing, almost instantaneously. Of course, this was pre-corona, so we were talking, having drinks, etc. And they said, Dan, the only thing you fucking don't do is do a deal for them. Because we didn't have webinars. We didn't have templates. We didn't have fuck all. Yet now it takes the kids longer. And as you know, middle of last year or thereabouts, I did away with the mentor program because after studying the data and the info and all the bullshit, although my instincts told me so, is that having a mentor program for 12 months, 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, was a crutch. Not dissimilar to some of the kids that asked me to be their chairman, because that's a crutch. We'll talk about in some detail tomorrow, but everything I predicted in March has come true in spades. Every fucking thing. I said we were going to have a second wave. I said it was going to be war. I said we were going to lock the fucking country down, and where are we now? The fucking country is locked down, isn't it? But you didn't listen. You didn't listen to me, even though you paid ostensibly a lot of money. I don't think it's chump change, any more than you listen to your parents. In fact, you listen to your parents more. That's why you're fucked up. And I'm here to tell you, kids, it's going to get a lot fucking worse. You would not have spent the money to come to this fucking hardcore if you knew what I knew. You wouldn't spend the money. Some of you are trapped here because you can't get home. Again, Winston. If you knew what I knew, you wouldn't be here. You'd be asking for a motherfucking refund. I told you in March. I told the world in March, but nobody listened, did they? I told you we were going to have negative price for oil, didn't I? You ain't seen nothing yet. It's going to get a lot worse. And for those of you that implement what you've already been taught, you're going to benefit geometrically. You're going to benefit geometrically. But I've been saying for 6-7 months, this is our time, and this is our time. I'm so fucking tired of saying it, until I'm blue in the face. But and I said it's easier. In the last 4 or 5 seminars, the guys that have watched the webinars have heard all the current kids that are doing deals in the trenches right now in Corona. They've all said, God, it's like Gerard says, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy. And Thomas says, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy. And they all say the same thing. And so what have you in this room and the fucking meatheads on YouTube done? You've taken your foot off the accelerator instead of pressing it down through the fucking floorboard. Well, it's easier. Well, I don't have to work as hard. Because you don't want to work hard anyway. All you're lazy cunts anyway. And that's exactly what's happened now. Everybody's taking their foot off the accelerator and time's just passing by. You're just going down the runway. And at the end of the runway, you finally run out of tarmac, don't you? You're just coasting down the runway. And then pretty soon it's the end. Now, I've almost fallen off this fucking thing at least 10 times since we got it put in. The first, I was looking at some old videos preparing for this. The old one was flat on the ground. It wasn't raised up. That was safer for me. But I've almost fallen off at least 10 times. But somehow I back away and I don't fall. We're going to go through some 40-some cases this week. 40-some cases. Depending on not your smarts or any of that stuff, but just, the team leader that we're going to put in charge of each team. And there's 4 or 5 guys that aren't here because they were in London. We pretty much told everybody to quarantine up here. But anyway, they're gone. Or they're stuck in London with their thumbs up their ass because they can't leave the country and they can't come up here. It's not dissimilar to the instructions I gave. Just as I gave the kids that came in March and they think I closed down and I said, please don't, I'm going to give you the thumb and drive, even though I know I shouldn't do it because you're going to get started. And of course, everybody got started and did it all fucked up. But now they're taking the foot off the accelerator because it's easier. That means you've formed a gap in the timeline continuum where the meatheads can get through. And I get emails almost every day from kids that have done deals that didn't come to the seminar. Remember, it's still 99.9% of all the kids that have benefited from QLA I've never met. It's no different. It hasn't changed in over 20 years. But now, instead of putting your foot down on the accelerator, almost everybody's taking their foot off, with a few exceptions. And we're going to talk about the 8 or 9 exceptions tomorrow. They're all guys. We've got women, but the ones I'm going to talk about are all guys, because you're all guys, that have taken this opportunity to put the pedal to the metal, I think is how they phrase it. And we've got some, guys doing 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 deals in Corona. In Corona. And 2 of the 11 we're going to talk about, only 2, I'm chairman of 2 of them. 9 of them I have nothing to do with. They did it on their own. They just took the material, same materials that you have received already. But it's easier. You kids aren't making it easier, but that's your decision. And we all know why right? We all know. It's hard to say I've got no balls. It's hard to say I've got no self-esteem. 2 or 3 of you pretend to have self-esteem and you don't. You don't. But in your circle that you're in, you get away with it. In this room, you wouldn't live past 15, 16 years old, where I come from. It's like the New York Yankees at their peak playing a high school baseball team. An analogy here, Manchester United at its peak playing a girls' soccer team from Bristol. That's the difference. And again, the guys that take the best notes heretofore have done the best. Because remember, I'm not here for you to call me. For 2 or 3 of you have tried to call me, and I just kind of giggle, and I don't return the call, or Kim doesn't even tell me. Because that's not the deal. There's no reason that anybody that's is coming through this hardcore, and this is our first hardcore, Corona hardcore. And the lockdowns are going to get worse around the world. 4 or 5 countries have already not that the UK is a benchmark. 4 or 5 countries have already, shut off the UK. And it's going to get worse. And as I said in March, now then they were hoping for a vaccine in 2 or 3 months. Remember? No, they said they'd have one. Then they were hoping for one. Now they're hoping to have one, and we can only put vaccine out for 1 or 2 million people at a time. There's 70 or 80 million people that need it in this country alone. You know how long at 1 or 2 million at a time it's going to take? 35 to 40 months in the UK, and it's much worse in the US. I told you at all your seminars, and you kind of scoffed and laughed, it's going to get down to where they pay you to take the businesses off their hands. Only 1 or 2 of you looked at me like you believe me. We've already had some people do it in the last 4 or 5 months, where they pay you to take the health company or health assisted living, whatever, off of you. But if you don't ask, you don't get. In the infamous words of Bruce the Whipple. And unfortunately, not that I shed any tears when our daughter told me she was going to be alone with her dog for Christmas. Shit happens, honey. Shit happens. She's a big girl. She's 34 years old. She ought to be able to. And when she just moved into her new apartment today in Chicago, and the movers hadn't got there yet, but she did a film. You take your camera and you take a film of the whole. Big apartment. Big. I wonder if she's getting all that fucking money. And she shows her dog asleep, and she goes through the kitchen. And as she pans, you see a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of wine, and then a half glass full of white wine next to a bag of chips. And so I assume that's her first dinner, which sounds like something I would do. Guys, it's hard for me to express, and I said this in the opening of the final day of the last seminar a few weeks ago, because I got emotional. I was so exasperated. For those of you that watched it, you will kill yourself for not taking advantage of this opportunity. Literally. And I said it much more emotionally the last day of the last seminar. What are you going to tell your grandkids when they say, "Hey, Grandpa, what the fuck did you do during the greatest dislocation of wealth in the history of the 14 billion-year-old planet?" I just sat with my thumb up my ass and did not a goddamn thing. And some of you in this room have started, wrongfully. We'll get more into it, but this model does not pay retainers. This model does not pay income to board members. This model is based on one moving part, a motivated seller, and free founders equity. That's it. There is no also ran. That's it. And the banks, we have kids that have gone, not in this group, we have banks that are asking for cross-collateralization on all the assets the person has. their existing business of 25 years. Plus 25% down equity. This is SBA. The federal motherfucking statute says no down. It's 100% government guaranteed. How many times did I say that during the fucking seminar? And yet somebody, not in this room luckily, or I'd pound the fuck out of you the whole week, somebody, more than one, are entertaining this bullshit from the fucking bankers. So I had this moron call the SBA. Call the cocksuckers and see what they say. And they read from the statute, well, you're correct, there is no, blah, 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 but it's up to the bank. If they don't feel comfortable, they can ask you for any fucking thing they want. So obviously you didn't sell the motherfucker, did you? And they're on Reddit saying QLA doesn't work. I can't give you the gumption, the temerity, the grit, the balls to fight for yourself. That's not my job. That's not what the motherfucking model's about. Everybody in this room is pretty much in the same boat. Now, a rising tide should make all boats go higher, right? Well, I may be the geometrically only example of showing how it doesn't. Because if you don't believe, well, you shouldn't be here. But if you don't believe, but you got to believe not just in the model, because you know that works, you got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, you spend Christmas with an old man screaming and yelling at you. It's pretty simple. Hit it, Edward.
Ladies and gentlemen,